And that's it. It's over. This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers.
You heard it there from ESPN's Mike Green. The Los Angeles Lakers are the 2020 NBA champions. In honor of this, I welcome you to Hoop Speaks, the journey to the World Championship, the 2019-20 Los Angeles Lakers. My name is Will Baldwin.
My name is DeMar Grant. What a time to be alive. The Lakers have won the NBA championship. But how exactly did we get here? On this week's Hoops Week exclusive, Will and I will be talking to NBA reporters, experts, and fans to figure out the whole story on how the Lakers won the 2020 NBA title.
Without further ado, let's get started. The date is April 13th, 2016, and Kobe Bryant has just played his final game for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, for the first time, the franchise's sobering reality sets in.
Right. The superstar cabinet is empty. They're light on prospects. The front office is a joke. The Lakers are a star haven, but they've yet to find an actual star to join their team again. You know, Kevin Durant won't even take a meeting with them.
Alex Holling has been a Lakers fan for almost 25 years. The host of the Lakers Central podcast, Alex has been through the franchise's ups and downs.
The Los Angeles native fell in love with the Lakers when they acquired Shaquille O'Neal and was even at Kobe's last game. Those post-Kobe years, though, were tough, and he knew that the franchise needed a change.
After years of his beloved franchise being utterly incompetent, they turned to one of the two superstar faces it was defined by to change its fortunes.
Look, man, I was happy they hired Magic and Rob. More so Magic, like, I will say this. Going into it, one, the Lakers are defined by two people, Magic Johnson and Kobe Bryant. Like, they are the two most recognizable Lakers of all time. Magic is also one of the most successful businessmen of all time. Magic is something different. So I felt like, okay, let's give this dude a chance. If anything, my thing with Magic was I knew he wasn't going to be in charge of the day-to-day operations, but it was like if Magic Johnson sits down with you in a room and you're a free agent, are you going to say no to Magic Johnson?
Now, with Magic Johnson in the front office, the Lakers felt like a legitimate operation.
Yeah, at least the Lakers looked like they were getting some sort of respect. That's what this whole Magic Johnson debacle or even sequence is all about. Gaining the respect. We went from not being able to sign Kevin Durant, free agents are not even paying attention to the Lakers as a franchise, to now that Magic Johnson's here. Are you going to really say no to Magic Johnson? I don't think so. It's kind of hard to say no to Magic Johnson.
Yeah, like I think the real thing that Magic coming in is it just kind of validated the Lakers as a franchise, because from really the end of Kobe's prime, it became a lot of he's going to go there because it's Los Angeles, he's going to go there because it's the Lakers, and not really anything necessarily to do with the team. Like I remember when Melo was rumored to go there, and it was like, why would Melo go play with Kobe? That doesn't make any sense. And it was literally just because he was going to go to Los Angeles. And it really started to feel similar to the Knicks, where it was just like he's just going to go to New York because it's New York. And yeah, for those of us on the outside, we're like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the Lakers were definitely turning into Knicks West, where it's just like, bruh, how can you turn it down? It's LA, it's the Lakers, the purple and gold. How can you not want to show up? But there was no things of actual substance to substantiate that. Like, nobody was there to play with. Are you going to come and play with Lonzo Ball? Are you coming to play with Josh Hart? You coming to play with D'Angelo Russell? Like, those are not really people that are really enticing for a star player. And stars, love stars. And when you're a disaster that is trying to dust up some sort of actual team, it's kind of hard to attract people to play for you, regardless of what name is on the front of the jersey.
Especially the Knicks West thing really for me started to come. And when in 2016, they started making the desperation signings, like they way overpaid for Mozgov and Lil Deng. And you're just kind of like, oh man, this is the Lakers doing this. Like, they're really desperate at this point. They're not playing the long game. They're not leaving their cap space open. They're not doing what most logical teams would do. They're just swinging on guys. And when they brought in that Magic, like, you can make fun of Magic all you want, but the reality is Magic Johnson's in a room with you. Are you going to say no to Magic Johnson?
Exactly. And now when you're showing other players that there is some sort of like semblancy to the front offense, even if the team isn't necessarily super successful. I mean, when Magic Johnson joined the team, the record the Lakers had was like 26-56 that season. So you could still at least look to like Magic Johnson's part of the team. They have a new GM. Rob Pelinka is also there now. We can actually start thinking about maybe the Lakers have something, actually brewing versus just being attracted to the name.
And then like when LeBron's free agency comes up in 2018, I remember being skeptical of it going in, just being like, is he really just going to be one of those guys, like we said? Is he really just going to go sign with Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and those young guys? Like, is he really going to do that? The stories came out, Magic Johnson and him got into a room together. I was like, of course, that makes blatant sense. Like, LeBron and Magic in the room together. And then it was like, oh, this is why they brought Magic Johnson in. Those feelings of validating the franchise when Magic signed were legitimate because he brought them LeBron James.
Right? The validation goes both ways. It's for the fans and it's also for the players. Joining Magic Johnson is a big deal. He's an icon full stop. When Magic Johnson is there, there's the charisma, it's the smile, great shiny bald head. It's hard to say no. It's hard to say no when he's over there trying to entice you. I mean, that charisma is able to draw you in, and it's like almost impossible to say no. And LeBron said yes, and he's the best player maybe of all time, and there wasn't much roster-wise to entice you.
But the thing with Magic is, as I kind of mentioned earlier, as good as he is, as charismatic as he is, there's bad to Magic, and he's not necessarily going to put everything into one thing because he's got a ton going on. And we kind of started to see the seeds of that when LeBron signed, when he started clashing with Luke Walton. It was like, do they really like their head coach? And Magic and Luke are feuding in the media. LeBron seems discontent with the roster they've put around him. And although Magic has, yes, done his job in bringing in LeBron James, they're starting to become question marks on if he and Rob Pelinka can put the finishing touches on the championship roster.
And it got to a point where people are questioning whether or not he's even fully dedicated to the job. How much of being a GM does he actually do? Is he going to Spain to go scout players? When it comes to him and Luke Walton, it basically became a duel of ideologies where he thought the team should play this way and should exist as a certain way. And Luke Walton, he's trying to do everything to win in the right now, where Magic Johnson has like a broader scope idea of what the team should exist as. And the clash did not end well. Let's just say that.
So, as we said, it started out well in 2018, but by the end of that 2018-19 season, things were up in the air. The Luke Walton thing had turned into a disaster. They had failed to get Anthony Davis at the trade deadline, and question marks about it, Magic and Pelinka had gone from quiet to fully real. To talk about this, we went and got Harrison Fagan, the editor-in-chief of the Silver Screen and Roll, a website dedicated to covering the Lakers. Fagan has seen a lot of things in his 8 years covering the team, but few compare with the final night of the 2018-19 NBA season.
On the last day of the season, we had our pre-write ready that I'd been working on since that first meeting that I mentioned where Magic screamed at him about the Luke Walton era coming to an end, what it means, whatever. I'm ready to go on this thing after the game ends because I assume, we're going to get the Woj report. Luke Walton has been fired. Luke Walton has stepped down, whatever it may be. And then Luke comes to the podium and he does his normal pregame interview, walks past Magic. If you look at the footage of that day, walks past Magic, just kind of, they nod at each other. And then Magic comes up to the podium and it's like, wait a second, what's going on here? All of a sudden Magic steps down, says that he wants more and is tired of having his name dragged through the mud, proceeds to do a 1.5 hour long continuous media availability before the game, talking to every reporter as he wanders the halls of Staples Center looking for Jeannie Buss because he has not told her he's stepping down yet, but he's just come out to reporters and did it. And it then eventually just gives up and decides to go home.
I know you were on Twitter that night. What were you thinking when this all went down?
I could not believe. I honestly, I just couldn't believe it. It's almost surreal to see the way that Magic was acting, where he didn't talk to anybody about this beforehand. Unbelievable that this even existed.
I remember being at home and not fully paying attention because it was the last day of the regular season. Most of the playoff seeds were tied up. Most of the news that comes out of the last day of the regular season generally comes out after the games where, like Harrison alludes to, like, we thought Luke was getting fired. I thought that would come out after the game. So I remember, I think I was like working on homework or something, and my phone started blowing up from Bleacher Report notifications like Magic Johnson stepped down. I was like, what? What do you mean Magic Johnson stepped down? What? Like, what? And I just go on Twitter, and it was one of those things where you're like, wow, I missed a lot. And there was just like 8,000 unread tweets of people like checking this, like, man, I have so much to catch up on. And it was like you said, it was hilarious. Like, you're just like, I can't believe this happened. It was surreal and a thing that you would only ever see in the NBA.
Yeah, and it was another thing that helped confirm or helped perpetuate Knicks West, because this is something that would happen only to the Knicks. At least that's what we thought, right? Is like, just bizarrely, the GM says nothing to the owner, nothing to the GM partner, nothing to LeBron. It's like he just rolled out of bed and he's just like, you know what, this Lakers thing's screwed. I'm off this. I got other things to do.
The reason it feels Knicksy is like when Phil Jackson stepped down as president, it was not dissimilar to this. Like it was kind of out of nowhere. You kind of saw seeds of it, but you're like, man, this is bizarre. And then like the fact that Magic, in every interview he's ever talked about Jeannie, calls her his sister, and then has the audacity in this press conference to be like, I haven't talked to her yet. Like, what? Imagine working in a job with someone you call so close that they're your sister, and you quit from said job and you don't even tell them.
It became like a tabloid story.
So as confused as we may have been, we're not there day to day. Harrison, on the other hand, has the blessing and the curse of being there every day covering the Los Angeles Lakers. So what was he thinking when this happened? And the days that ensued after, let's just say it didn't get easier.
Does this mean Luke's safe? Like, what's going on here? And then the next day, it's like Rob Pelinka and Luke have a meeting, agree to like a mutual buyout that was basically a firing. And then you don't know what's going to happen. And like, you know, we're getting reports that like the Lakers are maybe looking at other people to come in and replace Magic. And then it comes out that, you know, they're just going to elevate Rob essentially and have him take on extra responsibilities. Like at this point, Lakers fans have had it. They're literally rioting in the streets outside of Staples Center. Like this is not like a normal situation. Like I was ready for them to storm the practice facility at this point.
Now the Lakers have LeBron, but not much else, and appears to be at a crossroads as a franchise.
Tune in next week to find out how the Lakers handle the coaching vacancy and their star's desperation for another teammate of his caliber. In Hoop Speaks, the journey to the World Championship, the 2019 Los Angeles Lakers. This has been Will and DeMar.